by my colleague Tom Sedras, who will be helping out monitoring questions and comments. So if you have any technical concerns or questions or comments as we go through our session today, please feel welcome to raise your hand or type those into the question box. This is our third series of our webinars for our PLC groups this year. And I know that most of our participants today are from the Autobody Collision Repair PLC group, but we'd also like to welcome others who are joining us from the electrical or the commercial arts group. We've had a lot of weather-related school closings and changes and delays this year that have forced us to switch our schedules around a little bit. So we're happy to have those folks joining us today and welcome you to this session. We'll go ahead and get started. I have a few quick housekeeping announcements for you before we dive into our session today that's going to be focusing on what we're calling NOCTI know-how. The first is just a note that the PACTech conference is scheduled for June 18th through 20th this year, and it's going to be in Lancaster. I think the organizers perhaps sent out an email about that earlier today, tempting us with the thought of warm summer weather, which I know many of us are looking forward to. But I wanted to let you know we are planning to do some sort of PLC-related breakout session or sessions at that conference. We're still working on defining exactly what that will be. But we do hope that you'll consider attending the conference. We'll be sharing more details about anything PLC-related as soon as we have that firmed up. But it won't be obligatory, but we certainly hope that if you are planning to attend, you'll join us, and perhaps if you weren't originally planning, you'll consider coming to meet up with some of your PLC colleagues in person. So there's the website. And just a reminder that we will be sharing with you following today's presentation the slides and the different resources that are going to be referenced. So don't feel that you have to write everything down. We'll share that information out to you in a follow-up. So today's webinar, as I mentioned, is going to be focusing on NOCTI. And we have two guest presenters with us. We're really fortunate to have these wonderful ladies with us. I have them in reverse order of how they'll be presenting, but we're happy to welcome Ms. Darla Gettle. She's a school counselor from the Lebanon County CTC, and Mrs. Michelle Bonser, who is a numeracy coach at Monroe Career and Technical Institute. So we have them with us, and we'll be hearing from them about some NOCTI related resources and some tips and techniques that you can use with your students. I want to start out by just reflecting back to you some of the comments that you shared with us. We sent out a call asking for your input on a couple things related to NOCTI. In particular, some challenges that you encounter in helping your students succeed on taking the NOCTI test. And I'd just like everyone to take a minute to look through these, and I'd also ask our guest presenters, Michelle and Darla, if you have any thoughts or feedback on some of the challenges that our PLC members have shared with us, and perhaps you might be able to comment on those. So these are some of the challenges that we heard from our PLC members about what they encounter with helping students succeed on the NOCTI written test.
I think some of the challenges we've had at MCTI, we are the same as the ones we're seeing here, and we tried to address those in the last 3 years, and that's part of what I'll be talking about when I start my presentation.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
And this is Darla, and maybe Michelle will highlight these because this isn't some of the things that I'll be going over. I'm going to be, of course, covering some of the NOCTI website and some resources available to teachers. However, I do notice the length of the test, and maybe Michelle will highlight this or talk about this, but as a NOCTI site coordinator, I'm not sure of all the other tools or how they do it, but the NOCTI site coordinator does have the ability to split the test up into 1, 2, or 3 sessions so that the amount of questions isn't so overwhelming for the students, and those can be done over multiple days, et cetera, so that maybe that might address that one particular issue that's on your slide.
Great. Thank you for that input. Actually, I'm curious just to hear from our participants today. If you would click on the hand icon to raise your hand if your school administers the test over a period of multiple days, the written NOCTI test. Just click on the raise your hand if that's the way you currently administer the test. Let's see. I see a couple hands coming up. Looks like 1, 2, 3, 4, maybe 5, about 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. About a little more than half of our participants today have that as their process. Darla, if that's something that they wanted to pursue, do you have a recommendation for the schools that aren't currently doing it in multiple days?
Yeah, I would suggest they talk to their NOCTI site coordinator, or if that NOCTI site coordinator is not an administrator in their building, talk to an administrator in their building and make sure that they realize that the assessment can be given in 1, 2, or 3 sessions. That would be the best recommendation I would suggest to them.
Thank you. Any other, do any of our participants on the call today have any additional comments or thoughts related to these challenges? If so, please raise your hand or feel free to type that into the question box and we can share that with the group. Also, and maybe Michelle, this is Darla again, I'm sorry. Maybe Michelle again, I'm not familiar with what she's presenting. Sorry, Michelle. But I did see the no incentive, not a graduation requirement, and something we changed here at Lebanon, and maybe Michelle's doing something similar at Monroe, is this year we are counting the NOCTI as a final exam in the student's grade, and it's counting for 10% of their overall grade in their vocational program. So therefore, I think we're adding a little, meat to the assessment to make students understand the importance of it. Don't know if other schools have that ability to do that or not, but just wanted to share something we do here at Lebanon.
This is Michelle. No, we don't do that. It would be, I forget, is Lebanon comprehensive?
No, we're part-time.
Yeah, we're part-time also, so that's an interesting idea. We haven't really discussed that here as adding the NOCTI in as one of our graded assignments. So that certainly is a thought.
Right, and while we were talking, I did go ahead and move forward to challenges that we heard related to the performance assessment, and again, some of the same challenges, but also some of our PLC members talked about having adequate time for the students to practice and the students getting nervous. And certainly that second point is something that we're going to be talking about a little bit today, some of the strategies you can use to help students feel prepared and hopefully less nervous. And we'll also have some handouts that we send to you following the presentation today with some additional tips on how to help them feel prepared, and then also some creative ways to provide some incentives and some other for them to feel like the NOCTI tests are important. Okay, so thanks to our participants who shared those ideas and concerns. A little bit later, I'm also going to be showing some of the skill areas that you shared with us that are that your students are very good at, and then also those that present some challenges to them. So stay tuned for that. But now I'd like to turn the presentation over to Mrs. Michelle Bonzer, and I'll tell you a little bit about her. You've heard from her a bit already, But she's been an instructor at MCTI for the last 17 years, and she has taught applied math and Algebra 1 as part of their 9th grade program, and anatomy and physiology and medical math for their health program there. She's currently charged with assisting their program instructors with the integration of math into their curriculum and providing professional development to improve student achievement. So we appreciate you taking the time to talk with us today, Michelle. And at this point, I'd like to go ahead and change over the presentation to you. So to our participants, please bear with us momentarily while we do that.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Sure.
Oh.
And if you're able to accept the...
Yep, oh, let me, you know what, I forgot to put up my PowerPoint. There it is.
Okay.
From beginning, here we go, show my screen. There we go.
We see it.
All
Take
right.
it away. Thank you.
Excellent. So thank you very much, Jennifer, for that introduction, and thank you for inviting me to be part of this webinar today. I am kind of presenting a program that I worked on for the Integrated Learning Conference back in November. So I've kind of rearranged it a bit and made it so that it was teacher-friendly. But the premise of the whole presentation was to highlight the collaboration that we did here at MCTI between the administration, the coaches, which would be myself and the literacy or ELA coach, the teachers, and the students, with a very specific goal in mind that we wanted to increase our NOCTI scores. We were able to do that quite a bit by taking the last 2 years. Over 90% of our students are proficient or advanced on NOCTI. So whatever we did right along the way. So let me change the slide and we'll go on to the next one. One of the things that we started out with was looking at program NOCTI data. We had been giving the pre-tests, so we were looking at those pre-tests very carefully. We set some time aside so that coaches, myself and my colleague, could discuss this data and go over the data with teachers individually. We didn't hand it out in a large presentation. We didn't just pass it out to them. We sat down individually with each teacher and helped them to understand what the data was saying and what that meant for their students, what that meant for the strengths and the weaknesses that the teachers had and the students had. So we really spent time towards that goal. All right. There was the task link reports, and I'm sure most people have seen the task link reports. Recently at the Integrated Conference, I spent some time with Todd Luke at his presentations and then individually with him looking at the task link reports and understanding his data analysis techniques. And I have to say that I came back from that conference, and in December here at MCTI, we started that process. And the teachers were amazed at how much more information they were able to get from those reports by digging deeper into the data and really understanding where there were weaknesses and strengths for both the program itself and the individual students. So that's another tip that I would say, if you haven't done that kind of data analysis that Todd Luke is suggesting, it would be something to really work towards. It does take time. And again, we did it in small groups. So about 4 or 5 teachers along with several different, I'm sorry, I don't know what that is. Along with several administrators and my other coaches, so that we all had someone at the table to help the teachers. So it worked out very well. If you've never also had the integrated academic score reports, if you're concerned about your English language arts or the mathematics scores, you can purchase those academic score reports and go over that data with your teachers also. And that's something we've been doing for the last 3 years. Okay. If anybody does have a question at any time, certainly you can let one of the type it in, and I'll answer it as we're going along. That's fine with me. Okay. One of the things that we discovered was that we wanted to have preparation. we began to realize that we actually never sat the students down and gone over what the NOCTI was with them in a group, especially with the changes in the way the NOCTI is given, the new screens and everything the way it was set up. We wanted to make sure the students were comfortable when they came into the testing situation. My colleague and myself had administered the NOCTI test for quite a long time, and we noticed that a lot of the students didn't even really know what NOCTI was. They didn't know why they were taking it. They didn't know what it was for. They weren't comfortable with the computer setup. They didn't understand much of it at all. So we went, part of our program over the last couple of years is to make sure that students understand what the NOCTI is, why it's important, and why they're taking it. All the students are going to begin preparing for NOCTI. Many of the teachers thought NOCTI was just something for their senior students to do, but we kind of revisited that and came to the conclusion that because NOCTI is something that covers all the content, or at least a good chunk of the content in their coursework, that they ought to be preparing for the NOCTI for the entire time that they're at the school. So 10th graders should know about NOCTI, 11th graders, 9th graders, everybody should know about NOCTI, and it should be part of the entire process. Test-taking tips. We did some test-taking tips a couple of years ago, and I recently revisited that for this year, so that updated the document and have decided to give it out to the teachers again in the next week or so. They'll be getting it. So you've got a hot product, one that I've just come up with to give to the teachers. It's going to be coming up in the next couple of slides. One of the other things that we asked teachers to do 3 years ago was to create a NOCTI improvement plan. And each year we ask the teachers to incorporate the data and the information they get from the pre-test and the post-test into their NOCTI improvement plan and use some current instructional strategies or some new ideas or whatever they need to make that preparation plan applicable to the students that they have and what they have to be able to accomplish over the next year towards NOCTI preparation. Okay. All right, these are the NOCTI test-taking tips, and I apologize for the slide, but I wanted to get all of them on, and Jennifer does have the handout to give you later on. But just some quick things that we want the instructors to go over with the students so that they understand about taking a computer-based test. Not all students have that experience, and we want to make sure that they're comfortable when they come in. So we talked about some of these NOCTI test-taking tips. I'm not going to go over all of them. You can certainly take a look. They're pretty straightforward. Since the NOCTI test is all multiple choice, there are some specific things about multiple choice that students ought to know about reading and deciding what is the best answer. So some slides on multiple choice questions. And again, they're all part of the handout that you're going to be getting. All right. There's another one for choosing options. Continuing on and focusing a little bit on mathematics, because mathematics is my expertise, we instituted 3 years ago when we started this, the math problem of the day. And what we have found with the mathematics in most of the program areas is that it is all at the intermediate, junior, high level. Of course, there are programs that have higher level math, but for the most part, most of the math is at that particular level, especially now with the Common Core standards. We decided that rather than try and have math problems for each individual program area specific to their program area, I would create math problems of the day that would be just general problems that students might encounter in a college placement test or in a job application test. Problems that they should know how to do in a Word format. So I took, in each month, I decided on a topic and a theme, and then I searched the internet, my books, anything I could find for problems that I felt would be part of that theme that would go along. For instance, fractions and decimals, or measurement, or statistical questions. Along with the math problem of the day, we brought in using calculators. And this was something that was hard for everybody to get used to, is that calculators are allowed on the NOCTI, and that students sometimes didn't answer the math questions on the NOCTI because they didn't know how to do the math by hand, and they really weren't familiar with the calculator that was being given to them to use. So we decided to hopefully prevent them from skipping those questions by allowing them to use calculators in their classroom, by giving them the opportunity to become familiar with the particular type of calculator that we had for them, and to practice with those calculators with the kind of mathematics that they would be doing on their NOCTI while in their program area. Almost all the teachers purchased calculators from their own funds. We had calculator workshops, and we, right now, I would say, according to my last survey of the teachers, every one of our programs has calculators available for the students that they're allowed to use based on their industry regulations or what is practical in their industry. And we really don't have any issues with the calculators anymore. The kids are actually trying to do the math questions and coming up with some kind of answer. So that was very successful. All right.
Michelle, this is Jennifer. Did you also mention when we were speaking the other day that some the students are able to use the calculator app on their phone at your school?
Yes, some of the teachers do allow the kids to use the calculators on their phone. We don't allow them to use that during NOCTI, though. All right, and the teachers do have access to the same style of calculators that we use with the NOCTI all the time. I won't let the kids come out.
There's a calculator now available on the screen with the NOCTI written test.
Yes, there is. Yes, there is. Yeah, and that's available for them too. But I also put out the regular calculators because some of the kids are more comfortable using that. I think part of the whole thing with taking the NOCTI is the anxiety factor that some of the kids have, and the more comfortable I can make them, the easier I think it's going to be for them. So I do put out the calculators they're used to seeing in the classroom so that they can do that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we go on here. Jennifer had asked for a math problem of the day example. All right, and here I have one. I do these every month. There is anywhere from 20 questions, 25 questions, sometimes depending on the number of weekends we have. They are all available on our website, which is at the bottom of the slide, monroecti.org. It's under the Resources tab, and then click on Numeracy Resources, and all of the problems of the day are listed there as a PowerPoint and as a Word document. So, excuse me. Pardon me, all this talking. So you get an example there of the types of problems I was talking about. I've been doing the same problems. I don't change them year to year. I work pretty hard to figure them out and find them, and I have added to them this year by adding some additional questions with regards to the Common Core Standards of Mathematical Practice. I did put a few extra things in there. For instance, explain how to check your solution for accuracy. Or explain how range is used in your program, or another example. So I've added some additional questions that I believe increase the rigor of the question. But you're certainly welcome to use any of those. Take a look and see if any of them are useful for whatever you might need them for. The teachers, for the most part, will do these at the beginning of class. Some of them print them out and have them do them and turn them in as an assignment. Other teachers do them as a group activity and then correct the work in class. They use them in all different ways. Some of the teachers use them 2 or 3 times a week. Some of them use them every day. Just depends upon on the teacher and how it fits in with their teaching schedule. All right, we got a couple of pictures here. This is the hotel management students using some calculators in class. All right. One of the things this year, and from about the middle of last year to this year we've been working on, is the Common Core Standards of Mathematical Practice to help increase the rigor for our students. We also want to build numeracy skills. We want to build number sense. We want to increase their problem-solving abilities. So what I've asked the teachers to do, and this is an ongoing project and we're really still working on it, it's nothing that's in place yet, is to create a list of essential math problems for each program. If they take a look at the math that they do, what do they expect their students to know when they get out of the program? If it's a very math-heavy program, then they could break it up by levels and say, what do they expect their level 1s to know, or level 2s, or level 3s? But really focus in and make a decision about what are the essential math problems that a student needs to know how to do. And one of the resources that I told them they could certainly use was the NOCTI practice materials. What kinds of questions is NOCTI asking about mathematics? That might be a good place to start looking for math problems that are essential for your program. Like I said, that's ongoing and we're still working on that. The teachers are busy trying to put those lists together, and then we're going to work on making them more rigorous with regards to the Common Core Standards of Math Practice. One of the other things I talked about for math recently was consistent practice, that these essential math problems need to be practiced on a regular basis, not just once or twice, but over a period of years. If you expect kids to know it, you've got to keep going back to it and practicing consistently. The other thing is timely feedback. Some of the research has shown that students need, especially with mathematics, feedback within 48 hours or less so that they don't continue to make errors or actually practice errors in calculations and problem solving. So that was one of the other things that we're working on, is making sure students know that they've done problems correctly, and if they haven't, then we're going to try and change that. The other thing that research has shown is that talking about mathematics, talking about how you solved, what your estimate was, how you came upon that conclusion, why did you choose that particular solution process with a partner, with the class, in a writing assignment, with the teacher. All of those things are very important to continue to build numeracy and make the kids feel that they have the skills and can call those skills up when they're needed in order to solve mathematical problems. So that's where I'm going. Like I said, math is my focus, so to me that's an important part. Jennifer asked for some essential math problem examples, and this is what I gave them for their criteria for the essential math problems: that they must exemplify the mathematics, that the student must know to be successful in some part of their industry. It's not content. You can't just say, well, they have to do fraction problems or they have to do percent problems. I want specific problems that kids might actually see when they be taking a NOCTI test or some other kind of certification test, and some other types of sources that they might find those kind of problems. The two examples I've gotten recently from culinary. She asks how much profit is generated by selling 500 entrees with a menu price of $20 and a contrition margin of 10%. Now, as I look at that problem, I would probably want to add some more standards of mathematical practice, Common Core Standards of Mathematical Practice, by asking, how did you find the solution? What would your estimate be if you just had to guess? You know, as you look at the second one, again, you get they're setting using a formula, the Hubbard formula, which I have no idea what it is. So I'm hoping that the culinary students would. When they would get their answer, they should ask themselves if that answer makes sense. So these are the kinds of problems. You can expand on these by making it in a more detailed situation. You could put it in a hotel situation, give more details, give some extra information, make it a little more difficult to pick out the information that the student has to do, but still be able to solve that problem. So there are some examples of those. As I get more of these in the next year and a half, we'll see if we can share them with you and within the different program areas, so we can all focus on problems that students really have to know how to do.
Michelle, we have about,
Yep.
excuse me, this is Jennifer, we have about 5 minutes or so.
Yep, I'm going to finish up.
Thank you.
I'm on my way. We've done pretty much the gist of it. So here's some computer networking, students collaborating on solving a math problem. We also did some content retention strategies, and I said I do have a partner who does English language arts. And we also focused on a vocabulary improvement by working with the teachers and providing the materials to make flashcards and word walls. We also have worked with note making, and if you've never seen Diana's foldables, I highly suggest that you go to her website and see the kind of materials that she has available. Her resources are very reasonable, and for kids who are kinesthetic and visual, these are great ways to help them retain content, which is one of the things that we found with our students also, that they did not remember what they needed to know to be able to answer the questions on the NOCTI. You can see an example here in law enforcement with the kids having their vocabulary on a word wall. All right. This is also some foldables that are being used in the health occupations classroom. In addition to the English language in the foldables, we talked about reading for comprehension, and the teachers were given strategies, again, individually, one-on-one with the English language arts coach about reading for comprehension and chunking information. Teachers are using articles to increase the interest level for reading and vocabulary. Also, some of them are using technology for vocabulary practice, and I'll get to another slide has a few ideas about that. We also are working with Collins Writing as a writing technique for CTE students to help improve their ability to write. So all of these things are things that we're doing now and are in current practice. All right, there's some graphic communications kids using flashcards. For technology, we have, after a couple of years here, finally come to the conclusion that students are allowed, with the instructor permission, to use their personal devices, their smartphones, their tablets. Also, we do have quite a few desktops, laptops, and Chromebooks available for student use within the classroom. So teachers are able to really start to use some of the technology that's available for content retention, such as Quizlet and Socrative. Let me see, I don't even think I can pronounce that now. Socrative is how they say it. It's a great website. If you haven't taken a look at that one, that's a new one we just got from our technology coach. And to come in with skills, for some of the question that people had about kids being nervous during the practical part, using camcorders and practicing and watching themselves do the skills is one of the suggestions we've had here that we're trying out this year to help our kids become a little bit less nervous during their performance parts of the NOCTI. All right, and here we have a kid in a computerized machine using an app on his cell phone while he's in the program area to do some work on the machine. All right, in the classroom, we've encouraged our teachers to make NOCTI review a regular part of their instruction. The coaches are able to model strategies that teachers can use, and the essential vocabulary that they find on the NOCTI was put all over the place, everywhere from the bathroom doors to the insides of their lockers. We had vocabulary all over. All right. For the post-test, we are encouraging the students to take 2 days to do the test. We do divide it into 2 parts, and we have found, since we started some of these initiatives that the students are more focused, they will use the calculator, they come back more rested and able to take part 2. We see less test anxiety, and they really want to know what their scores were and how to improve for the next time, especially with the pretest. All right, that's it. There's my contact information. Please feel free to contact me with any questions you might have, or if you have some things you want to share with me or talk about what some of the things that I've done. So thank you again, Jennifer, for inviting me to speak today.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Some really great ideas there. Do we have any questions or comments for Michelle from our PLC members? Please raise your hand or type into the question box if you do. And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to go ahead and change our presenter. Darla, do you have your slides ready to go?
I'm demoing a website, so I'm good to go.
Oh, okay, your website, sure. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and change the presentation control over to you. Hopefully you should have a box pop up there. Okay, great. I don't see any questions right now, but I'll continue to monitor those. And please feel welcome to share any questions or comments as we hear from Darla. I'll go ahead and do a quick introduction for her. Darla Gettle, our next guest speaker, has been working at the Lebanon County CTC for the past 20 years. She began her career as the office technology instructor and then moved to a school counselor position in 2005. And she noted that although her title is school counselor, her primary responsibilities are managing all aspects of the secondary student information system classmates, as well as serving as the NOCTI site coordinator for the past 8 years. And in that role, she coordinates all NOCTI assessment testing, including pre, post, and pilot testing. She also does analysis of NOCTI results data down to the task level and meets with instructors to review that. So we're very fortunate to have her with us today as well. She is going to give us a sort of a tour of the NOCTI website and some of the resources that are available to you to look at your student data and to help your students become better prepared for the NOCTI assessment. So thank you, Darla, and we'll go ahead and turn the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Jennifer. Everyone, I'm assuming, can now see my screen, right? The NOCTI website?
Yes,
we can see that, right?
Correct.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm sure most of you are aware that the website for everything NOCTI is nocti.org. What I would like to kind of review a little bit is the Teacher's Corner, which is down here on the right-hand side of the website. So I'm going to go ahead and click there. Okay. The first thing I want to note is this click here to sign up for teacher news updates. I would highly suggest that you go and sign up to get any email updates from NOCTI as an instructor. I think they're very helpful. I normally get them myself and then pass them along to our teachers, but I think it would still be beneficial for you, especially if you say which program you teach. You will get specific information from NOCTI in an email format for you. So I would suggest you all sign up for that if you haven't done so already. Then I'm going to just go over here to the teacher's role. And I'm not sure if we have new teachers, seasoned teachers. I'm not quite sure the number of years people have been in the classroom or done the NOCTI or given the NOCTI assessments. So I'm just going to kind of go middle of the road here and try to go over the few things that I think are the most important on this website that might be beneficial for teachers to know about. And one is right here is what is my role in performance testing? There's a lot of turnover sometimes in the NOCTI site coordinator. So oftentimes, test security and what the instructor's role is and things like that sometimes may not be communicated as well as it should be due to, like I said, attrition, people leaving, new person in the position, etc. So you might want to review what your role is in performance testing. Basically, your role as the instructor is basically to be available to the evaluators. The people that judge the performance test are called evaluators, whereas the written test, NOCTI refers to them as proctors, just so you understand the difference in the terminology. But basically, it says here, and it tells you that you're there to locate extra materials, maybe shut off the power, give a student a pass to go to the restroom. Things like that are in your realm or scope of responsibilities during the performance testing. So you just want to keep that in mind. Another thing is that instructors are not to be really viewing the performance testing. So that's something else to be cognizant of. You would be breaching test security if you were, basically out in the shop area while your students are doing their performance testing. Instructors at Lebanon sit in their office, which is kind of next to their lab area sometimes. However, they are made aware that they shouldn't be standing there at the window, gawking out, seeing how their kids are doing during the performance testing. So, and your NOCTI site coordinator should be communicating those rules to you. So, but it does here outline a little bit more about that. What will my site coordinator need from me? Oh, sorry, I went back to the same screen. Basically, scheduling testing dates and times, including makeups if appropriate, things like that. Providing notification to parents or guardians about test administration, reviewing score reports and providing individual reports to participants, ensuring accommodations for students in an IEP have been identified. Some of those things might be your responsibility. I know that, well, I think I'm going over accommodations a little bit later, but I just wanted to make sure that you do understand that accommodations are available for students with IEPs on both written and performance testing. They should be followed. Difficult to follow sometimes on performance testing, but it is a requirement to follow those accommodations. Under the How Do I tab, there's a bunch of different links here, but I would go to, I want to go to the score reports. How do I interpret score reports? Here's a quick view and a little brochure, I believe it is, about the score reports. Oh, I can't get to my dragging down here. There we go. Sorry. I would assume all of you are getting score reports given to you from your NOCTI site coordinator. If you're not, that's definitely a problem, and you definitely need to contact your site coordinator and make sure that they're providing you with that feedback on your students' performance. You should be getting a copy of the here we go again. Sorry. There we go. The individual score report, a group score report, and these should all look probably pretty familiar to you. And then we mentioned, and so did Michelle, about the task level reports. We've been utilizing those task level reports here at Lebanon for, oh gosh, I'd say 6 or so years, 7 or so years, when you used to have to pay to get them. Now these task level reports are available for free on the NOCTI website. Your site coordinator is able to access them. So if you are not getting the task level reports, you want to make sure you are. And in fact, I have a copy here. I just wanted to show you, in case some of you are not familiar. I pulled up a copy of our Autobody post-test from last year. I blocked out the kids' names, as you can see. But And these do come in an Excel format, which is what I use to do some analysis, and I add additional things and such, and I can show you that just real briefly. But I wanted to point out to you that these task level reports are great because they give you much more insight into the content of the test than the regular score reports, I guess you would call them. So you can see the area of the written test on safety and fundamentals. There's 4 areas, and you can read what those 4 areas are, and it tells you how many questions there are on the test for those particular areas. It tells you the average that the students who took the test, how many they got correct, in this case 6.3 out of 8, and then each student would be in these blocks, and it tells you how many of those 8 questions that student got correct. What I actually do then for our teachers is I then group, so you can use a grouping tool, and it's a site coordinator thing, but I actually group our regular ed, special pop, and we're a 2-year half-day situation for our Autobody program. So oftentimes we have to test students who've only been in our program for 1 year, which makes things very difficult because they've only had half of the curriculum. So I break out those students' scores based upon their category here, and you can see for safety fundamentals, demonstrate knowledge of safety environment, yada yada. Our regular ed students get 79% overall score in that area. Our special pops of 56, and our AM seniors only get about 31% correct with those particular questions. And so I do this for the entire written test, and then I highlight in red any areas that are below the cut score for that year. In addition, well, I want to go back here to our, and they also have the task level reports for performance. I'm sure you're all familiar, if you're an Autobody instructor, of the jobs involved in the performance test: welding, sheet metal repair, and vehicle measurement. You guys are lucky, only 3 jobs. It's not quite as involved, but I think this year they're going to have more because there's a new test. Sorry to be the bearer of bad news. I think there's a new test. I'm not quite sure. But anyway, you can see here in welding, you can see the particular tasks that the students are evaluated on by the evaluators, how many points are possible, and the average points earned by group again, and the average number of points by each student. In addition, I take this then in an Excel format for our instructors, and we do fairly well on the performance portion of the collision repair test. We struggle more on the written, which is odd because most of our programs here we struggle on performance. But anyway, you can see here how our regular ed, our special pops, and our AM seniors did in all aspects of the performance test. And then this is just an overall for the welding job. This is how they score for the sheet metal repair, et cetera, et cetera. So just, I didn't want to digress, but I do want to make sure everyone is aware of the value of those task level reports to make sure that you get that information from your site coordinator.
Darla, this is Jennifer. May I interrupt you there?
Absolutely.
Okay. We had a question come in related to the performance assessment. Someone's asking, how do I ensure that the my folks who are, I'm sorry, and I'm ad-libbing here because I'm sort of interpreting the question, who are evaluating students' performance are evaluating them at a high school level versus a professional level. In other words, what, you know, how can they prepare their folks?
Yeah. The evaluators get an evaluator guide, and in that evaluator guide, they are given, let's just say, I'm trying to think of a good example, Autobody, what is it, welding. let me go back to my list here. It might help me know what I'm talking about or give a better example. Here, they will have a task for this welding job that involves safety, welder adjustment, lap weld, butt weld. I think you can see all of these things. Let's just say, for example, the safety portion. Normally, there's like criteria that the evaluator has in his book that says, and I know nothing about welding, so I'm going to sound really ignorant here, so bear with me, but they will have like, turn the welder on, I don't know, something about sparks, or I have no idea, or they put their helmet on, or whatever. They're like different things that the evaluator has to make sure the student did when doing this welding job to show that they are confident in safety. So there might be 4 or 5 things listed, whatever that may be. If the student did all 5 things, they bubble in an A on the evaluator's, or the student's rather, score sheet. If they only did 4, they may get a B. They go from A to E usually. So if they did none of the things regarding safety that are listed, the evaluator puts in an E. So it's not a very subjective evaluation because it's all laid out for what the evaluator should be looking for and see to determine the student's score. Did that help answer that question? And well, I can tell you something else that might also be helpful is that I was just last evening at a subject matter expert training because I've been helping and assisting with some of that process. And the subject matter experts are usually occupational advisory committee members, people that are working in the field that actually review the NOCTI tests when they've been revised before they're actually implemented. And when the presenter who presides over these subject matter expert trainings prior to them going and actually looking at the exam, they remind them that they are supposed to look at the exam from a viewpoint of a minimally competent high school senior, if that makes any sense. So is that what they said? Yeah, minimally competent. So, or maybe that's not the right word. I think that's what they said. So just like an average student who has gone through a career and tech ed program, they shouldn't be some outstanding student. They should be an average student who went through a CTE program to determine how, like of those 5 things, how many of them should they realistically be able to do. So I don't know if that helped or not. Maybe they have a follow-up question, but I'm assuming they aren't sure how the people are evaluated, but that's the students rather. So that's kind of how that works.
Okay. If there are any follow-up questions for that, please type them in. If I may just share one additional question since we're kind of at that point. Mike has a question about is it appropriate for the teacher to be in the area while the testing is going on? I'm actually going to try to unmute his microphone so he can. Mike, you can go ahead and ask your question if it's more specific.
Sure, thank you. Hey, you know, the last several years, we have been out of our area completely during the performance of the NOCTI test. And do you feel that it is appropriate for the teacher to be in that immediate area while the testing is going on? Because, you know, you look at it as if you can't help the students at that point cheat because it is a performance. And a lot of times if you're there in the area, if there is a question or there is something going wrong or more materials needed, you're able to help the flow of the performance keep flowing smoothly. And I'd just like a clarification.
Yeah, I think it's an administrative decision, to be perfectly honest. I think NOCTI, if they were here and answering, they would say it's best you are not in that area. You shouldn't be there to answer any student questions. You should not be answering any questions from evaluators on how to evaluate the students. So, you know, there's a line to be drawn there. I don't think it is a problem to be out of the area. I know a friend of mine who's a NOCTI administrator at another school. She has those teachers out of the area, but in a conference room where there's a phone call. So if the students, if anyone needs something, they can call and be in touch with the instructors if there's some kind of, but you shouldn't be out there telling kids, now you go to job 3, you go to job 4, you go, no, that is absolutely not allowed.
Right, and that's what we have done the last several years is we're in the conference area or classrooms or whatever, so that if we're needed, we're just a phone call away. But that was a question that came up a couple of times, Jen, and I just wanted to kind of like your answer on that, or the group, what you thought. So, but I thank you very much for that. And then if I could just add one thing to the data analysis we've also done on the task link reports with Todd Luke, and is working out fantastic. Shows you where those weak areas are. And also we have discovered that like my third year, because we're a 3-year program here, my third year, some of my seniors, some of the lessons that is on the NOCTI, we don't teach them until it's their senior year. So whenever they're doing a pre-test, those areas naturally will be low. But whenever they do take the NOCTI test, you see that those scores come up. And also with those SLOs, we've just done our SLOs and used the data analysis with that. And that is our student learning outcomes, is what we're focused on, is the NOCTI. So those go hand in hand. And I just wanted to share that with you too. So I thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, we don't have any other questions, so you'd like to continue? Go ahead, please.
Sure. How much more time do I have?
I'd say definitely 10 minutes.
Okay, just checking. Okay. Also on the screen, allowable accommodations. Just want to make sure everyone does know that there is a text-to-speech accommodation where students who have particular SDIs on their IEP, the NOCTI site coordinator can actually assign a text-to-speech. They can check mark that, and then the student can plug in headphones, and there's like a reader on the screen for the students that reads the question to them, so that you don't have to actually have a physical body of someone sitting there reading the test to them. Let's see, visual assistance, there are large print versions of the test. Time extensions, extended time, we do that oftentimes here, time and a half, double time, etc. And that is something the NOCTI site coordinator can actually check mark again per student if they have that particular accommodation and need that for the assessment. Any questions on accommodations?
I don't see any at the moment, but if anyone does, please raise your hand or type into the question box.
All right, let me go back here. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Under the reports on the Teacher's Corner, there's a parent's guide for interpreting scores. This might be something that's helpful to hand out on a parents' night or something like that, just so you need parents to be made aware of what NOCTI is as well, and how NOCTI can, benefit their child. Might want to remind them, I'm going a little off topic, about, now the college credit awarding for doing well on NOCTI. I'm not going to be going into all of that today, but, parents' ears perk up if they hear that their child can earn college credits depending on how they do on this assessment. So this might be a nice little flyer to print and hand out to parents, send to them, whatever it may be, email it if you have an email list, as a PDF, just to communicate to parents so that they understand the importance of the NOCTI test. Okay. Tools has a lot of different things on it. I just want to highlight a few. I am assuming everyone is familiar with the assessment blueprints. I would hope that you are, but you can access your own assessment blueprints on this website. You do not have to wait for a site coordinator to, forward them to you or whatever. So right here on this particular screen, you can go, I know Autobody is called collision repair, I think, is that right? collision repair and refinishing. I think that is the test you have to give this year. We used to give just collision repair here, but now we have to do the collision repair and refinishing, I think. So you click on the letter C because you know that's the name of the particular assessment. You click on collision repair and refinishing, and you are able to, hold on a minute, let me move this. Having troubles rolling. I guess I'll just do it this way. But I'm assuming everyone is familiar with the blueprints, which tells you a little bit, more in depth about the exam, the areas of the exam, etc. Here we go. Maybe there we go. That's better. Sorry. Wanted to show where the areas were. Here we go. The written exam, it tells you the administration time is 3 hours. It tells you the number of questions on the exam. And all of this information is given in the study guides, too, that your NOCTI site coordinator should order for you and you should have for your students for all the years that they're in your program. So it tells you, it's broken up into safety and fundamentals, structural, non-structural, mechanical, and electrical, painting and refinishing, and it's heaviest on, of course, the structural and non-structural areas. So that might help you as well to know which things to emphasize in your instruction. And then it goes over some of, a little more in depth, and I'm sure you all know this. So I'm not going to go too crazy there, but just wanted to make sure you knew that you are able to get the assessment blueprints yourself. This doesn't apply to the Autobody because they don't have a PA customized assessment. However, if some commercial art people are on the call today, or maybe some electrical instructors, if you have a PA-specific test from this screen, you click on the NOCTI state programs link here, click on Pennsylvania, and you will have all of the information here about the PA-specific customized tests. So you can see here, for example, commercial and advertising art is a PA-specific test, electrical power and transmissions installers as well, and you can get information about those assessments on this particular screen. Let's see, countdown kits. I don't know if anyone knows that these are available, but maybe you want to have something to promote NOCTI in your classroom. You can order these. It's some posters and some other little brochure things and stuff to give out to students. Going back to what Michelle said about test anxiety, test preparation, test taking tips, etc. So as it says here, $35 per kit. And if you want just the poster, it's $15. So just so you know that that is available as well. Employer recognition. We actually gave this particular flyer out to our OAC members because they are usually a great resource for recruiting NOCTI evaluators. So we thought this was helpful to them to understand the importance of NOCTI a little bit more and just to promote it with our OAC members. So at our first OAC meeting, we asked instructors to print this and give to all of their members. Okay, let's see. Here we go. There are some parent resources here too. And let me see what I want to highlight here. The performance, wait, where am I at? Bear with me. I think maybe I went to the wrong screen. Did I want to go there? Oh, I know where I wanted to go. Forget it. Okay, I'll get there. But parent resources, personally, I think there's better resources when you log in. So that's kind of the next thing I want to make sure everyone is aware. There is a teacher resources login which gives you access to a few additional things that I think are really helpful to instructors. How do you log in? Oh shoot, I bet I didn't bring my password. Oh, doggone it. Okay, sorry, I wasn't prepared here, I guess. I thought I wrote down my password. Maybe I didn't. See? Okay, you need your site code, and then you also need a password that's supposed to be given to you by your NOCTI site coordinator, and I thought I wrote mine down somewhere, and now on my list of notes here I don't have it. So let me log in really quickly just because I do want to show you this website for you can actually access the instructor prep packs, which are very important. So give me 1 second, I apologize. I'm going to go, you can now see what the NOCTI site coordinator sees. Ooh, you get to see behind the curtain for a minute. Do you have a question while I'm doing this?
Well, I was just going to say you might want to, I don't know if it's going to show your password.
No, it won't. It
Okay.
doesn't. We're good.
Okay. I'd say we have another probably about 2 minutes, Darla, and then I'd
Okay. It'll only take 1 second here. I apologize.
Sure.
There we go.
This is like being behind the scenes at Disney.
Yeah. Woo. Okay. I'm so sorry. Anyway, right here, the instructor prep packs. How many people are familiar with the instructor prep pack and get a copy of the instructor prep pack?
Go ahead and raise your hand, please, if you are familiar with the instructor prep pack or if you have a copy of that. I see a few hands. 4, 5. Yeah, that's about 2/3 of our group.
Okay, good. Well, just so they know, by using that teacher login, they can get that instructor prep pack themselves. Here I'll go to the collision repair and refinishing. What does the instructor prep pack provide you that the blueprint doesn't? Well, it tells you more specific information about the test as to how to set it up for the performance test. So, and that is, you need to have this information to make sure that your lab, and that is part of your job as the instructor for performance testing, is to make sure the lab is set up and ready to go for the performance testing. So you can see here materials and resources needed for multiple choice testing, which usually they're not that, the instructors aren't that responsible for. But of course down here, performance testing, it talks about test security. You might want to reread that. Performance test setup. And then down here, it tells you how long, the amount of time that particular job that the student gets. They have an hour to do the welding job, and it's weighted 30% of the entire test. It gives you a list of equipment that you need to have available for the students. Then it goes into job 2, same thing. Job 3, vehicle measurement. Now, of course, this is a different one. We did collision repair last year, now it's collision repair and refinishing. So there's a 4th job and a 5th job. So it's very essential to make sure that you have a copy of the instructor prep pack so that you know that your students are having everything at hand that they need to perform well on the exam. One other thing, just really quickly, is there is a letter to parents. There's a nice little, letter here, example of something you can quickly customize, and I'll pull it up in the PDF to send to parents to remind them of, NOCTI testing and its importance, etc. It's already written there for you, which is kind of nice. There's also performance evaluator information. It's like a little PowerPoint that you can give to your performance evaluators or promote or present it at an OAC meeting so that they would know what's required of them as an evaluator for NOCTI if you choose to do that. And it's taking forever, so, well, there we go. But it's all kind of done up. It's a little bit of background on NOCTI, but it does tell them a little bit about the performance testing and how does it work. So that might be something nice to share with evaluators. So I will stop there because I don't, and the test security, just as a reminder, if you would want to review, the test security and ideas for classroom use. So there's a few extra tools here under that login, but you do have to get that password from your NOCTI site coordinator and get your site code to be able to access that. So any follow-up questions?
I don't see any at the moment. Does anyone have any follow-up questions for Darla or Michelle? If you want to think about that for a moment, I will go ahead and change the presentation back to my screen and just share with you a few follow-up items and some next steps. So what I have up here now are some of the resources that we've talked about today and some additional information that we will be sharing with you via follow-up email. This is the Monroe CTI website that we heard about during Michelle's presentation. And then we also have a couple handouts. We have the CTE test-taking tips that we talked about today, as well as a sheet called Instructors Need to Know, which summarizes some of the information that Darla has shared with us, as well as an innovative ideas sheet. These are ideas, and I'll show you a couple examples of them, that were collected a couple years ago by Penn State Greater Allegheny, by their staff there. Different ideas and ways to motivate students and get them enthused and hopefully break down some of the barriers and sort of the nervousness involved with NOCTI testing. So some great ideas there. This is just a sampling, and hopefully that'll give you some food for thought as you're continuing to help your students prepare and get ready for this important test. Are there any additional questions or comments for our presenters today? I don't see any, so I would like to take a moment to thank Darla and Michelle for your time this afternoon. A lot of great ideas and resources, and we're so fortunate to have you both with us and to share your expertise today. So thank you to both of you. We really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Jennifer.
Yep, you're welcome.
Thanks. And for our PLC members, here's a quick look at our final webinar in our PLC series. So this is the Autobody Collision Repair Group. Your final webinar is scheduled for Tuesday, March 25th in the morning, and we'll be focusing in on math, and our title of that session will be Unraveling Math Mysteries. So we're looking forward to that, doing a deeper dive into math and integrating that into your lessons. So we appreciate your time today. Hope that everyone stays warm and safe over this coming week with who knows what type of weather might be coming our way. So we appreciate your attention, and we'll look forward to meeting with you again in March. Thanks, everyone.